Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Stop the presses. Hold the phone. If we're doing a holiday special, we're doing this the right way. So bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, for the next couple of minutes. DJ, please, by all means, can you play something that's at least, relatable? Something that is at least showing within the Christmas time? Thank you.
With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like St. Nick. Ho, ho, ho!
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel.
You're as cuddly as a cactus and as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch.
You're a bad banana with a greasy black beard.
That's much better. And also, I regret nothing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure they're like, why couldn't you have played the older one? It's Jim Carrey. What can I say? I have to be the one that basically breaks out and says, yes, it was awesome. Welcome to the Game Changer, ladies and gentlemen. And this is a very special holiday-themed episode. And ladies and gentlemen, I am being joined here by I would call the Celine Dion to my Deadpool, the one and only Miss VicTori Belle. Happy holidays to you, and it's good to have you back on the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I will take Celine Dion, but I almost think that's offensive to her. But
I only say that mainly because of the music video that she did with Deadpool, Ashes for Deadpool 2. And just like at the very end where Deadpool's just basically saying like, that was a wonderful performance. We need to do it again. You're at like an 11. This is Deadpool 2, not the Titanic. We need you down at like a 5.5 tops. Just phone it in. And she just responds, she's like, hey, this only goes to 11. So zip it, Spider-Man. And he just ends it by just saying, I knew I should have booked NSYNC.
Oh! No, but that's awesome. I love that even Celine Dion decided to do something with Deadpool. I was freaking out when I saw that. I was like, that's hilarious, because that song is not like a goofy song, but she's like, sure, you can have it. You can ruin my song, that's fine.
It's one of those things where she's one of those women that I look at and think to myself, she does not really grow that all with age. She looks kind of like the same that she did like years ago. I want to know her secret right now, and please, for the love of God, do not tell me it's Botox, because I refuse to believe that. I think she just takes care of herself that well. Same thing as Rachel McAdams. That's just my opinion. Anyway, we're talking about the holiday season, ladies and gentlemen, and there's quite a bit that we're going to be talking about, including we're going to be taking a little bit of a blast from the past as we talk about some of the greatest and probably the most classical Christmas movies out of the Rockin' Bass Productions, or studio, as it were. So we're going like way back, you guys. But before we get into that, a couple of like current events that have definitely gone on. Oh, man. I mean, you want to talk about how the internet explodes over just the smallest of things. They had the first promotional poster for Aladdin, and a major shock, they show Will Smith not as the blue genie. And how do people react? No, he's supposed to be blue. No, he's supposed to be blah, 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 blah. It's like, just calm down. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's just a promotional deal. And I was told before the podcast that Will Smith has confirmed that, yes, he's going to be blue for the production. So for those of you that are freaking out about it, first of all, calm down. Second of all, it's a movie. Yes, I know it's a great movie, but it's still a movie. And thirdly, he's going to be blue. Calm down.
Yes, yeah, he definitely promises to be blue, but yep, this is our world. Everybody's so fragile, and it's so sad. But I mean, I've already said I'm intrigued to see how he does as Genie. It's going to be hard to follow the great and late Robin Williams, so
no,
I wish him luck on his journey to being as good of a genie as Mr. Robin Williams.
No, this is very true. And I think a lot of people are just going to be hesitant to see the kind of Will Smith that he plays in this, because a lot of movies, I think we even touched base on this on a recent episode where we talked about how Will Smith only plays seemingly Will Smith in every single movie that he's in. So
yes, I complained about that a little bit one day. But yeah, so if he decides to, throw some acting in there, that would be great.
It's like she's not salty at all. Whatever, it's fine as long as she shows some kind of characteristic other than Will Smith. Then we're good.
Right? Like, let's not have him be like, yeah, ooh, tough, like killing fairies and shit. He's killing like a pixie in the new movie Bright, and he's like a gangster, like he has something in his mouth and stuff, and he's a cop, and you're like, does he always have to be like a gangster cop? Could he just be a cop one time? Maybe.
I wish that was. I'm hoping that's the case. We'll find out.
I guess maybe Will Smith doesn't want to be a cop, but no, it's just it'll be interesting. Like I hope he has those characteristics of going from character to character, and it would be really cool to have like a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air character, but not throughout the whole time.
Yeah, because one of the things that, the genie does in Aladdin is that he always likes to bring up, references. I'm hoping that, Will Smith does hit some of these references well, and hopefully they're references that people can, pick up. But, again, we're just going to have to wait and see. So, I think that we're good on that. So, a lot of people are definitely curious about this. I know that when I messaged you about this, you were kind of interested in hearing my thoughts on the PG-13 version of Once Upon a Deadpool, a.k.a. Disney's version of Deadpool 2. Is it worth seeing? Is it worth going to? Is it worth the money? First of all, let me just say that I got in this movie for free because I work at a theater, so thank you very much to my job for that. As far as my thoughts on this, it's kind of what you would expect for a watered-down Deadpool movie. And that's really the best way I can describe it, is the fact that it is so watered down. There's moments where, if they swear, they have to do like a bleep deal. If there's something too graphic, they find a way to edit around it. It's just one of those things where I remember just thinking back to myself, God, this movie was so much better when it was rated R. This just doesn't work. The only thing they really added to it was the segment with I think it was Fred Savage and Deadpool, where basically they're just in a bedroom and they're just kind of talking, and Deadpool's basically telling the story of what Deadpool 2 was essentially, now that it's PG-13. So there were some comedic moments throughout that part, but nothing really too stand outish for me where it was just like, oh man, this is a really good movie. No. Okay, no, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Even though that movie was one of those movies that I'm not high on, anytime we have the Deadpool and Yukio interaction between the two of them, I will always say yes. That's legit my favorite thing. I don't care what anybody says. Just the whole "Hi Wade, hi Yukio." It's like, why is this so?
Hi Wade.
Hi Yukio. Bye Wade. Bye, Yukio. Just like, why is this so entertaining to me? Why is this appeasing to me? It's literally just like a young girl talking to an older gentleman. I know it's weird when I put it like that, but then again, it's Ryan Reynolds, so it makes sense. Ryan Reynolds is harmless until he puts the Deadpool costume on. I know I'm not really helping my case right now, but I don't understand how this is one of those things where it's just like, why is this my favorite part of any movie that Deadpool's been in right now? It's just interaction between him and this random girl who is a girlfriend to Negasonic Teenage Warhead. And
I'm surprised you remembered that girl's name.
And honestly, guys, I will say this: Yukio, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, they're my vote for couple of the year for 2018. I'm sorry, but that's just one of those things where it's just like I can't pick anybody else. There's nobody else that really stands out. Well, I mean, there was this. What about Star-Lord and Gamora? Nope, they got nothing on these two. What about this couple? Nope. Sorry. Yeah, but there was also that. Nope. Yukio, Teenage Warhead. That's all I need.
That's funny. I would let you know that you might really like it because Yukio is doing the stereotypical Japanese little girl. So that definitely is a trait that some people find very appealing. That's kind of what Yaoi and what is it? Yaoi is boy on boy. What is the little girl stuff? I don't know. I forget what the little girl stuff is called. This is because I don't look it up. But not that I do look up, damn it. but yeah, I think it's just like the little, like how anime does the younger females, even though they're not that young, but they always look like they're like little girls, and then the boys look normal.
No, yeah. Hi, Yukio. It's just, again, one of those situations.
Quick question, though.
Go ahead.
Quick question about it. So, let's just pretend you never saw the original version.
Okay.
And your parents said you weren't allowed to see it.
Okay, so this is back in my actual childhood. Oh, boy, this is going to be a nice
No, but like, would the new version, Once Upon a Deadpool, suffice for you? Would it have been amazing if you knew, or if you did not know about the original?
That's a really good question. I think it would, because of the fact that, it's still kind of one of those situations where, yes, it is still owned by Disney, but at least they're kind of taking a page out of their own comfort zone, because a lot of times you'll see them definitely have a lot of cleaned up stuff, and there's very few times where they'll be risque with what they do. So it would kind of be one of those things where it would be eye-opening to see them even have the mention of an F-bomb, or even mentioning the S word in there. Even if it's bleeped out, it's kind of still one of those things where it's like, oh wow, they actually did this, holy cow. But I think that a lot of us were very surprised in how much they got away with in Infinity War. But, again, when you go into Deadpool, it's a completely different story. So, to answer your question, yes, I think it would had I not, seen the original Deadpool. But, of course, that is not the case right now. I've seen the original Deadpool, I've seen Deadpool 2, and it's one of those situations where it's like, oh, God, everything I know and love is dying in front of my eyes. Thank you so much, Disney.
Okay. So that's good to know. So if you're a parent out there and you hated the fact that Deadpool was an awful influence, apparently the movie is comparative. It just dumbs it down and cleans it up for kids. So there you go. If your kid wanted to watch Deadpool, that's a really good option.
Yeah, I think that's the best way of putting it. Okay, so I'm trying to think if there was anything else that happened. Honestly, saw the movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is somebody mentioned that this is the 4th reboot to Spider-Man. It's like, yes and no per se, because you have to remember that the first one with Tobey Maguire was about Peter Parker. Second one, Peter Parker. Third one, Peter Parker. This one is more focused around Miles Morales. So in a way, it is a reboot because it does feature Peter Parker. But in a way, it's not, because it's more focused around Miles Morales and his story. And general thoughts about this? I loved it. I thought it was a really good movie. We got a chance to see, some of the characters you're familiar with, but they have kind of a different, look about them, which is actually really cool to see that. You get introduced to a lot of the other Spider-Man that are from different universes. They have, I think, this running joke where they literally just do a deal where it's like, oh, hey, I'm, this person, and I'm from, this universe, and they, talk about their story. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, they're basically trying to keep everybody up to speed that, hey, this is not, just the same person. It's not, it's not Peter Parker. It's not just this person. It's like, okay, I basically, came from, the same kind of background, but then they change it into the fact that they have different, different characteristics, different styles from a lot of the other Spider-Men. I will say this, that I do love the Peter Parker that is involved in this one, because they do kind of mention the whole deal where it's like, hey, they kind of do a couple of deals where it's like, hey, I did this in Spider-Man. Like, they go back to, the original Spider-Man. They show some, points there, and they even do a deal where Peter Parker, he's dressed like Spider-Man, and he's doing, that whole dance that he was doing in Spider-Man 3 where he was doing, the snap of the fingers and the pointing and the feels. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of redeemable for Sony. I will accept this, because they're basically just saying, yeah, there is even this. Yeah, we try not to talk about it too much. It's like, Yeah, we don't. We really don't. There's some people who are like, but that's the best part of Spider-Man 3. Shut up, you're not my friend anymore. I don't care what you say.
Interesting. So, overall, like, it is probably more of a kid movie, right? It looked like a kid movie.
Yeah, it is more kid-friendly. And it also is one of those movies that clashes with people that have epilepsy, so if you do have that, definitely bear that in mind when you're watching it, because there's a lot of, the flashing of the lights, probably even more than Incredibles 2, in my opinion. So,
wow.
Yeah. But, yeah, it does its job. It tells a great story. It definitely has really good characters, really good development. It's very well done. I quite enjoyed it, and I think anybody who's a Spider-Man fan should definitely at least give it a chance, at least watch it one time. Yeah, it's really good. I will also say this, that both Once Upon a Deadpool and Into the Spider-Verse do have Stan Lee tributes near the end. With these Into the Spider-Verse one, they had more of one where he had a quote from him. They had his signature glasses in there, and he did make a cameo in Into the Spider-Verse. So definitely, if you want to see another Stan Lee cameo, go check that out. And it is a pretty funny cameo. I will mention that. Once Upon a Deadpool, I don't think he made an appearance. He was in a tribute video at the very end where I was already in tears, because then I was also reminded of the scene with Vanessa and Deadpool, where it seems like Deadpool and her were going to be reunited in heaven, basically. And I was like, oh god, this is actually still as sad as the original. Oh gosh. And then about 7 minutes later, I started crying up again because they showed the Stan Lee tribute. I'm like, oh, why must you tear my heart apart? Why? Oh, come on, stop this.
Poor Nate needs a little... For Christmas, I should have got you tissues.
Well, had you known I was going to see those two movies, then yeah, I probably would have been like, oh man, this is why I love my co-host. She gives me tissues. Just me taking a selfie of me crying with those tissues, and it's in a Spider-Man box or something like that.
Yeah, or a hanky. I should have got you a Spider-Man hanky.
Oh man.
You have to clean that. That's disgusting.
Well, it's not one of those things where I would just blow into it. I've seen a lot of other people do it, but
yeah.
I get what you're saying. I get you. Yeah.
Right?
The one where it's geez, did you just dump out your whole brain in that hanky? It's oh, that's where my IQ points go. But all right. So we definitely talked a lot about the Marvel deal, and honestly, guys, as we're recording this, we got 3 huge movies that are going to be coming out this week. Holy cow! Mary Poppins.
Question. Was the Into the Spider-Verse Sony, or was that Disney?
I believe that one was Sony.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I think they got away with a lot more, so that's probably more of a Sony flick than a Disney flick.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, already tonight they're premiering Mary Poppins Returns. We got Bumblebee coming out, which a lot of people. Which I have a coworker basically says, I'm not going to see it because it's got Michael Bay. It's Michael Bay's only producing. He's not directing. I don't care. It's still got Michael Bay in it. Just give it a chance. It's one of those movies that I'm looking at and thinking, I'm giving it a chance. If it blows it, then, well, at least I gave it a chance. If it doesn't, then I'll be like, yep, I'm glad I saw this movie. Because it's probably the best one since the original Transformers. And then we also got Aquaman coming out. So there are people that I think there are mixed reactions about this because, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I'm definitely planning on seeing all 3 of these movies, hopefully within the next few days, but I'll have to see, because I also have to make time for family because it is the holiday season, so don't expect me to, go too crazy.
Is the theater open on Christmas?
It is open on Christmas.
That's interesting. That sucks for you guys.
It does. But yeah. It's one of those things where it's I'll live with it. I've survived a lot of Black Friday deals, and I've survived a lot of crazy holidays to think that hey, this is going to be okay. But it is going to be one of those situations where I think a lot of people are definitely going to be mad. There's going to be a lot of angry people, I can tell, because there's so many people that are oh, I wanted to see this movie, but it's all sold out. No, I wanted this, and blah blah blah. Kind of stuff like that, but. I'm ready for it.
There are a lot of movies to go to, though. There's a lot of good movies out right now, and I haven't gone to any of them.
Oh wait, actually on Friday I also just remembered that I guess the one movie that's going to be definitely Oscar worthy is going to be that Mary Queen of Scots movie coming out with
Is it
Margot Robbie.
finally out everywhere? Because it's been out for like 2 weeks in LA and New York, and I'm over here like, oh, great. Because I've wanted to see that. I actually really want to see that.
It feels like one of those movies that it just started really promoting, because I hadn't seen any promotion about it for quite a while. But yeah, it's coming out this week. So for those
cool.
of you that are interested in something that seems very classy and very interesting, definitely go see Mary Queen of Scots. I know nothing about this movie, but I think that might be the best thing for me. So
it's basically like a historical reference of Queen Elizabeth and Mary Queen of Scots and their relationship with England and Scotland at the time. So
hence
basically,
Mary Queen of Scots.
Right. Basically, if you know anything about England and the UK in general, the UK doesn't always love England because England throughout time has always tried to just take over Scotland and Ireland and Wales all the time. So it's going to be a very war-centric and who can control who has the most power. And apparently they were friends and then now they're enemies, and I think it's very intriguing. So it looked really cool. And I'm also... like, I have roots in Scotland, so I'm like, ooh, go Mary Queen of Scots!
Mary Queen of Blots. That's gonna be the parody of the movie. So.
Oh, it's Queen of Blots. What is that?
Oh man, Scary Movie's just gonna get their hands all over that. We're gonna call this Mary Queen of Blots. It's like great, just ruin a historical deal for all we care. All right, so we talked a lot about this, and we still have a lot to talk about because
we do.
Because since it is the holiday season, one thing that we definitely talked about last week after the show was over. Well, actually, we talked about it even during the show. I remember that now. We mentioned talking about a certain group, certain studio known as Rock and Bass. Rock and Bass. For some reason, I thought it was Rock and Bass, but maybe that was just a brain fart on my part because I've been working so hard. And basically, they've created these really good stop motion movies. So we're going to be talking about a majority of these movies, as well as a couple other movies that were definitely very Christmas related. But before we get into that, I want to ask you this question, because this is something I've asked all throughout this morning, and it's kind of a debate. In your opinion, what do you define as a Christmas movie?
That is actually a very good question. I would have to say if the plot focuses on an aspect of the holiday in general and what the holiday is about, I would say that is a Christmas movie. So one example that I would categorize as kind of a Christmas movie, which people would be like, what the hell? The movie Legion. Have you seen that?
Legion. That is new.
That actually has an actor that we all know and love. He was, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting what the character's name is. Vision. He was Vision. Actor plays Vision. So he plays Michael, a guardian angel, and it is a horror flick, or a thriller about the new coming of Jesus, and it revolves around Christmas. Like everything, there's Christmas lights all over, and the angels are there, and basically there's a grandma walking on the ceiling trying to eat people's faces off. But it's all about the baby's going to be born on Christmas, so I'm like, I guess that's a Christmas movie. Hello. But yeah, I think if it involves the subject of Christmas, I would categorize it as a Christmas movie. Like that, and I mean like the plot. I don't mean like oh, Christmas is in there because like it goes like 2 years span and hey, Merry Christmas. Like, no, the plot has to involve Christmas, the date.
I think you really hit the nail on the head when you first had it. You were talking about how, it should center around Christmas, but also still have kind of, I think you would say, the values and the morals when it comes to Christmas. And that's something that really stands out to me, is the fact that, Christmas is about, celebrating, a very, historical and religious holiday. Trust me, we're going to be talking a little bit about that. during these next few movies. But it's all about, just appreciating family. It's not about, just getting gifts. It's the idea of just giving to your heart's desire. You're basically giving something. And that's what this holiday is all about. It's about being there for each other and being able to give something, not even expect anything out of return. It's not one of those things where people can say like, oh, if I give, maybe like $100 to this person and $200 to this person, maybe I'll end up getting like $1,000 for Christmas. Like, no, that's wrong. First of all, your math is wrong. And second of all, it's not what the holiday season's all about. It's just one of those things where you're just basically giving out to, just out of your heart, out of your goodwill, out of your heart. That's what this is all about. And, I've done quite a few actually charities throughout this Christmas holiday season, where I only do it because I want people to be happy this holiday season. I remember, I'm going to do a cheap plug for one of the wrestling podcasts. He did this deal called Ranta Claus, where basically he said, hey, we would like to, just, do donations, get funds for, I think it was Toys for Tots, or it was basically a charity for getting toys for kids, and I was all over that. I would just, donate a bit there. I'm not going to give the money because I don't want to. It's one of those things where I don't want anybody thinking that this is going to inflate my ego. I really don't. It's just, let's just say that, it was a good amount. That, as soon as I saw the result of my good friend Ant, he showed the picture of like all the toys and stuff that they were going to give to the kids. And one of those things was like, see, this is why I do it. Because I know that there's going to be a lot of kids that are going to be so happy and appreciative of the toys that they are getting. And, there's a lot of people out there that are not going to be able to get toys. And I would love to, give every single kid a toy. And trust me, there's one movie in here that definitely is one of those things that reminds us that, hey, some people are not as fortunate as we are. But we'll get into that in a bit. So it's really, truly is about giving. And people are going to say, that's the same song and dance as every year. Because it is. There's really no other way of putting it. So, all right. Now we get into the sloppy, mushy stuff. Let's get into talking about the actual movies. And wax on, wax off. Trust me, you guys, Skype, even during the holiday season, can't seem to give us a break. So, all right, let's just dive right into it. So, Rockin' Bass, what have you have us starting out with? Wow, okay, so we're starting off big with the first movie that came out in 1964, and that is an ever so great legend of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Story, it's pretty good, and it's pretty simple. And let me just tell you guys this, that if a lot of people are expecting, high-quality animation and just, great scenery, stuff like that, you're probably not going to get that with a lot of these movies. But it's not even about the animation that it's all about. It's about the story. And this one, right off the bat, great story. Rudolph, who basically is a misfit. He's basically sent out as an outcast just because his, nose glows red. And, we see a lot of other interesting characters along the way in this story. We see, like Hermie the elf, who wants to be a dentist. We see, Yukon Cornelius, who is still, like, hands down one of my favorite characters, probably of all time. And you kind of notice this. A lot of like really standoutish characters have the long names, like Yukon Cornelius from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Monterey Jack from Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. A lot of those like comedic, great comedic characters have really long names. Launchpad McQuack from Darkwing Duck. You remember those characters not only for their names, but because of the impact that they made. Again, this is one of those movies that makes a really good impact. It tells a really good story that just when you think that life gets you down and people don't like you for who you are, they finally realize that, you are special and that you are going to make a difference someday. That is really what I kind of get out of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I don't know. What do you get out of this movie?
I love this movie. This is the movie that introduced me to all of these movies, and I didn't even realize it was number one, the first one they've ever made, but I mean that explains a lot. This was the one that launched all the others because it was so successful. By the way, you could definitely cosplay as Yukon Cornelius. That would be freaking hilarious.
Nothing.
Oh, the snow. That would be hilarious. Please do. You got the You just gotta, just practice. Bring the pitch, the ice pick.
Yeah. And then they just gotta get like little keychain like of doggies or something like that.
Yes, get your little doggies. I'm sorry. I know you said like it doesn't have the greatest animation and stuff. I don't know, man. For in the '60s, when I see it even today, I'm like, dang, that's cool. Like it's claymation type of stuff, stop motion. Like it was so cool to me that they were able to do that, and like it had to have taken them a long time, and especially in the time that they produced this. And this is awesome. It is a classic tale of accepting others for who they are, and that everybody can make a difference, and people's differences can make them special in ways that you don't know. And yes, having a shiny red nose probably is pretty inconvenient at most points of your life, but if you need to see through a storm and your nose has that much radiation in it, then yes, it's pretty significant that they were able to do that. And then also, like, have an island of misfit toys there, that where every toy that nobody wanted goes to, and they were able to be like, no, like, you're special in certain ways, and there's a certain kid that will love that toy. And so it was just it's a great story all in all, and a great message to put out to people and kids in this holiday season. So Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is the best. I love it.
You know, it's kind of funny when they were doing like the whole introductions of, you know, what toys they were. I just remember thinking to myself, you know, they're, you know, introducing herself like, you know, how would you like to have a, you know, spotted elephant? I'm like, I would actually not mind that, actually. I'd be totally okay with that. Or, you know, you mentioned like, you know, or a water gun that shoots jelly. It's like, okay, that would actually be kind of cool. I'm not going to lie.
I'm a cowboy that rides an ostrich.
I'm not going to lie. That is probably like one of the coolest things to really think about.
But it's just that it's just they were being ridiculous and trying to teach acceptance, and especially in that time, I bet it was really quite awesome to get that message across through stop motion. So.
Oh, definitely. Do agree with that. All right, so next up was released actually 4 years later, 1968, and I will say this, that when we started talking about like the list for these movies, one of the jokes that I made when we were making this list, because you were talking about how some of them were kind of going to be like, I don't know about that. It's like, well, I mean, I can understand, and I made that joke where I just like, I don't want religion in my holiday. I don't care what you have to say. And that is, second one up is The Little Drummer Boy. And I will say this is the first time I've seen this movie in a while. My perspective on that has really changed since I was a kid. It is one of those movies where I rewatch it and I'm just kind of like, not as well done as I thought it was, you know, growing up as a kid. I'm not talking animation-wise. It's just the story itself just kind of had me scratching my head just a little bit, but also kind of thinking, I'm not exactly enamored in that, well, liking this character. Basically, it's a story about a kid who has, I guess you could call it a magical drum, because he has a sheep, a donkey, and a camel following him wherever he goes. He hates people because, you know, his family was murdered by, I guess, sheep thieves, we could call them. So it's just basically talking about, you know, him finally learning to accept, you know, people in his life and realizing that not everyone is bad. I don't know what the message really behind this is. This is one of those ones where it's just kind of like, I don't know the message really a part of this. I don't know what I'm getting out of this story. And I'm just not very that fond into this, you know, character. It's one of those things where it's like, you want to like the main character. You want to like the person that they're kind of circled around with. But it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm not big on this kid. I understand why, but at the same time, it seems like it's not until like the very end where it seems like he's got some redeeming qualities to him. But it's just one of those things where I'm just kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, this is not one of my favorite Christmas movies. And it's not because of religion or anything like that. It's just the character itself, not a fan. That's just me.
Yeah, well, growing up, I know for a fact that I had the 3-pack. So I had Rudolph, another one we haven't talked about yet, and then this one. And I remember we would have to watch all of them, and I'd be like, oh, man, the little drummer boy, eh. Like, I like the rumpa-tum-tum. Like, the songs were cute and good. I think it was a little more frightening. The characters were a little scary. And yes, it did try to be more historically and, like, a little more religious than, obviously, Rudolph would be. So I think it had a good message. They all have good messages of the fact that, yes, he didn't like people. He doesn't like a lot of things. He enjoys animals, and he went out of his way to try to do something good for someone else. And then he's able to gain that acceptance of people are not all bad. It's almost like getting over yourself and getting over your own ego type of thing. He had to get over himself in order to give back to someone and give the gift of his song to the new baby Jesus. And the fact that he had all those animals with him and he liked animals, I enjoyed that part growing up. But all in all, it was more of a scary look. They definitely gave the people, and even the drummer boy would make faces that, like, as a child, you're kind of like, oh, scary. Like, why is he so angry all the time? Especially when they took the sheep and stuff from him, you're like, like, as a kid, like, they're like, they basically tell you they're going to murder all of his animals. You're like, what the fuck?
Right?
Like, I'm too young to watch this. But yeah, I think that it's definitely, the little drummer boy is not meant for as children friendly as the other ones on our list, probably. But in all, it was a decent movie, but I'm going to stay with my younger self on this. It is not my favorite either. And I don't know if it's because it's more religious than the other ones, because I personally am not that religious. But I just think it wasn't as entertaining. Like as you said, it's a lot of him, like, drumming and, like, the awkward stop motion dancing.
Right.
Like, ding, ding, ding. Like, okay, what's going on? But yeah. So,
You know, I don't even know if, like, religion really is that major part of this movie, to say the least. Because here's the thing, is that, you know, when it comes to this, I don't think religion is just really that major into it until, like, the very end is where the religion part kind of takes form. For the majority of it, it's just all about him per se. But you know, I think it's just one of those movies, like we said, it's not high up on our list, but it's still one of those movies that, you know, it's a classic. It's for the holiday season,
classic. And everybody knows. Like, I don't know if the songs all resonated from these movies, or if they made the movies and involved the classic Christmas songs, but, like, I mean, who doesn't know the rumpa-tum-tum,
right?
Rumpa-tum-tum, me and my drum. But, like, everybody knows that song. And did I first hear it probably on the little drummer boy? Yes.
Yeah. No, I definitely do agree with that. But, I will say this, VicTori Belle, I gotta tell you a little something. You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'll tell you why, because Santa Claus is coming to town. That movie premiered in 1970, just 2 years later, and it's still one of those movies that is still very much talked about to this day. I will say this, you guys, this is probably my favorite interpretation of what the history of Santa Claus is. It was one of those movies that, as soon as I watched it again, I was like, wow, this actually answers so many questions that kids might have. Where it's like, you know, why is he, you know, jolly? Why is he, you know, have the red suit? Why does he have the reindeer? Why does he have this? It's very informative, but they also find a way to just keep it so entertaining at the same time. It's just a basic story about, you know, this is how Santa Claus came to be. You got to see a lot of, you know, how he became, you know, Kris Kringle, and then how he became Santa Claus, how he and Mrs. Claus kind of meet. And I will say this, they actually do a pretty decent job of trying to continue that story throughout the, I want to say throughout a lot of these other movies that we'll definitely be talking about. But yeah, this is just one of those like straightforward. Hey, this is how Santa Claus came to be. They have a narrator who is just very well done.
I got you. Sorry.
No problem. Oh gosh, I'm trying to even think of like some really great other moments that even happened during this. So I will say this, that even the villain is just a absolutely interesting deal in which I'm trying to remember. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember what was his name. Herr Meisterberger. Oh my gosh, the villain is just absolutely, I would say, entertaining to say the least. Just basically just this kind of like short and pudgy guy who just literally just like, oh, a toy? I hate toys, and toys hate me. And it's like, wow, that just escalated really quickly. Just because you stepped on a little toy duck, it's like, oh, toys hate me now. It's like, okay. And he also is like somehow like the comedic, oh gosh, what do I think of that? He's kind of like the comedic act in this too, because there's just a lot of physical comedy when it comes to him. He's either just falling downstairs, or he's just getting poked by a toy soldier. He's stubbing his own toe. There's just so many of these random deals where it's just like, wow, he's a villain. He definitely still has that kind of deal where he can be very threatening. But he also has this deal where it's just like he has some of the funniest moments where he's just randomly getting hurt at his own hand half the time. It's just absolutely hilarious. But Santa Claus is Coming to Town is an instant classic. Very well done. I especially love, like I said, that the fact they're informative about it. They answer every single question that you can imagine. I can't think of a single question that they haven't answered as far as like the history of Santa.
Yeah, it's interesting that you meet this guy who's just like a really nice, giving person who's happy, like extremely happy, and he becomes friends with the penguin, and we see, I forget who the old wizard guy was in it.
Winter Warlock.
Yes, like they have to like go through this, and yeah, it's just all about how like people are not having any joy and fun because of like people like the Burgermeister or whatever his name is. And so he feels like he wants to give back to humanity, and it just also happens to find people with the magical powers to do so.
It's kind of interesting because, I forgot to mention Winter Warlock. He's one of those characters where at first he seems like he's going to be like the main villain of the entire movie. And then like halfway through, it's just kind of like oh, he's going to be a part of the good guys. And it's kind of one of those things where it's really cool to see, yes, it is kind of a fast-paced deal where he's like, oh, he's evil to begin with, and then one act of random kindness, he just turns good. I'm okay with it. It's one of those things where it's like, you know what? He's bringing joy, he's bringing happiness, and if this is a guy who literally was just mad because of the fact that he didn't get a present, and now somebody's actually nice enough to say like, oh, hey, here you go, here's a gift for you, and he turns good because of it, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, it just goes to show that good works can definitely change people.
Well, yeah, it's one of the main themes of this movie. It's like a simple act of kindness can like do a domino effect of kindness, and I think that's another main theme of Christmas is you try to remember that, not everybody is in the same situation as you are, so even if they seem like a grumpy old person, maybe they're going through something that you don't know, so doing these simple acts of kindness, like in the Starbucks line, sometimes I've gotten paid for because the person in front of me was like, what was her order? Oh, she just got a coffee? Just put it on mine. And I was like, I would drive up and I'd be like, giving like, here's my credit card, and like the lady will be like, sorry, that person already paid for you. I was like, what? Like, what? And then that inspired me to do that once in a while as well, especially like if the person behind me like is getting an order that I'm like, oh, it's like $6 or $7, just throw them on mine. And it's just one of those cool things that you get, like it's not a big deal at all, but it causes you to think of that, and you as a person like, wow, that was super cool, super easy, and that kind of made my day. Like, whoa, like I got free coffee today because somebody that didn't know me just decided to pay for it. So I think that's kind of what I love about Santa Claus is Coming to Town. It's him trying to give back, even though people don't give to him. He's a really nice dude, turning into Santa Claus, whom we all know and love now, and it is one of my favorites. I do have to say, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, like the put one foot in front of the other, do-do-do-do, like trying to teach him how to walk again and stuff. It's just great, and that's kind of how you're supposed to, like, do anything, take on any task. Put one foot in front of the other, and you're going to get through it. So it had amazing messages and super entertaining characters too, like that we all know and love still today.
You also hit the nail on the head. Is that you have that song of put one foot in front of the other. I feel like every single song in this movie was just a direct hit, and it flowed very well with the story that was being told. Everything from even doing the classic Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Just doing a lot of these different songs in here. It's really cool to see that. And it's not one of those things where they're just randomly breaking out because it's, it's convenient. Or it's like, oh, well, every few minutes we have to definitely, hit a song here. No, it's one of those things where it's like, we're putting a song here because it makes sense. They're basically, telling why they're singing. It's really well done. So, yeah, God. I mean, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, definitely one of those movies that, again, instant classic. People love it. And it's very entertaining, like you said.
Yeah.
All right. Next up we have is the movie came out in 1974, 4 years later after this. How would they capitalize on Santa Claus is Coming to Town? In a very interesting way. This was when they had the movie The Year Without Santa Claus. And, wow, this was one of those movies where it kind of hits on a bit of an emotional standpoint because you watch this movie and you see Santa Claus basically thinking to himself, well, nobody probably believes in me. Nobody really even thinks that I exist and blah, blah, blah. It's one of those things where he starts doubting himself. And it's such a powerful deal. And you see, basically two of his elves and Mrs. Claus. They're basically trying to show that, hey, there are still people that believe in you. There are still people that, have faith in you. They go out and they have a lot of these adventures where they meet up with, a township. And then we get introduced to probably two of the well-known characters of, honestly, every single... we get introduced to the two characters that probably get really... not as much credit as they do, but they definitely should, and that being Snow Miser and Heat Miser. We get introduced to these characters. I also love how they kind of make the deal where it's like, oh, hey, you know how there's like that cold front and that warm front that keeps coming by? Yeah, no, that's Snow and Heat Miser's place, passing over your head. And I'm just kind of like, that's actually pretty ingenious now that I think about it. Making it seem like, hey, you think that you're getting warm stuff. Well, that's Heat Miser basically coming in. You're getting all this snow. Well, that's Snow Miser coming in. You have this rain. Well, that's kind of a combination between the two of them, and they're battling against each other. It's like, this is actually very smart how they're doing this. In the end, basically, Santa Claus finds out that he's such an important part of, these children's lives that he finds that motivation. He finds that reason to continue on and still continue to be Santa Claus. It's probably one of my favorite movies now that I've rewatched it. I just remember thinking to myself, wow, there's a lot of characters in here, a lot of storytelling, and I kind of like it.
No. This was one of those that it isn't as a classic as the other three were to me.
Right.
Just because, it, like you said, it's trying to be like a sequel versus like its own baby, but I'm okay with that. It basically brought... I do think they almost make these... looking at the famous Christmas songs, and they're like, which ones should we use? Which ones can we put into this? And, have a Blue Christmas was in there. Like I'll have a blue, 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 blue Christmas. Like it's such a good with the tears like running down as the blue Christmas. Like you're like, oh, poor kid. But no, it was definitely one of the really good ones. Basically, like like trying to see if like Christmas really revolved around the seasons, or does Christmas revolve around the caring for each other, or what does it really revolve around? And having the two Meister brothers was just amazing. And I don't know why, but that song is just ridiculous. Like the Meister brothers song will come out of nowhere in my head, and I will sing it. And I don't think I watch that movie that often. I'm actually going to be honest, I probably have only seen it twice. And all of a sudden, like, he's Mr. Heatmeister, he's Mr. or something, like, I'm Mr. Coldmeister. And you're like, what the hell? Get out of my head. What is this? Like, this is the stupidest stuff that gets stuck in my frickin' head. But it was so good to see, like, oh, like, no, you can't snow here, and no, you can't have heat here, and how, like, the elves were challenged to even bring snow to the town in order to make them believe that, like, there's some sort of Santa Claus and stuff, and having to, like, deal with the Miser brothers who don't allow that stuff. It was just really cool and gave us a lot of new characters to think about during the holidays, and having Mrs. Claus, try to, like, pump Santa up, like, the whole time, and he's just like, no, people don't care about me anymore. It's just a good touching moments in there that, Christmas can bring on these not so great feelings if you feel like everyone is in this happy, cheery mood and you're not. So I think it has those underlining, like, themes of, hey, maybe you do need to reach out to people that maybe don't feel so great around the holidays, or might not have people to make them feel great around the holidays.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I think one of the things that really probably is the reason why the Miser Brothers songs hit so well is because it is essentially the same melody. It's just that, Snow Misers is just more, happy-go-lucky and peppy and upbeat. And then when you get to Heat Miser, you definitely feel the, the change in the tone where it just goes slower. Like, I'll give it like this as an example. Like, Snow Miser, dun 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 dun. It's just very, like I said, it's very upbeat. But then when you get to Heat Miser, it's dun 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 dun. It's very slow. It's very, like, methodical, if you will. It's just one of those things where you definitely can tell, like, snow, it's like a little more, it keeps you going, it keeps you ready to go. But then when you get to the heat, it's just kind of like, just dragging on. It just kind of brings you down just a little bit. But they never really make them out to be, like, villains or anything like that. They were just, two brothers that were just fighting with each other. So I think it's one of those things where it's like, wow, you guys are like the Miser brothers, you know that? So for those parents that made that kind of reference to their kids, you get an A for parenting from me. That's all I'm going to say right now. But yeah, it's just one of those movies that I think this was probably one of the first few movies where they had a clear message that they wanted to get across, and it hit very well. Like, you could definitely say that about the other ones, but I think this is one of the first ones where it was like a crystal clear message here that they were trying to send. And again, worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you did mention the word baby in there. Baby, it's cold outside. No, not that. Talking about Rudolph's Shiny New Year. Now, this was one movie that I had no knowledge about. So it was one of the first few times I ever watched this movie. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what can I expect from this? And I will tell you this, that there was a future movie that I watched first, and then I did this one. So it was one of those situations where it's like, well, how does this character know this character? And this is one where it's like, oh, I should have watched this first, and then it could have answered everything else. Okay, that's how they know each other and everything. So basically, it's one of those things where it's immediately after Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and it only took them about 12 years to do this. So better late than never. Basically, Rudolph is called by Father Time to help find Baby New Year, who basically is embarrassed because of the fact that he's got these big ears. What is up with the big ears? Because trust me, we're going back to back with this theme here. I don't know why. But basically, Baby New Year's, embarrassed. He's trying to get away. He's trying to find, somebody who, or some place where he won't be judged or he won't be, just laughed at. We see a lot of these like random islands that they usually have, and basically there's like a race against time where they're like, you have to bring Baby New Year back before time runs out. Otherwise, they'll be stuck in the old year. It's like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. Never really thought of that, but it's kind of one of those interesting deals where it's like that could be problematic because I don't think anybody wants to stay in the same year over and over and over again. But I also like how they definitely have Father Time kind of as one of those characters that, he always starts a new year. And I know that's such like a cheesy way of putting it, but it's one of those things where it's like, in January it starts off as, Baby New Year, then months later he gets older, and then months later he gets older, and then he's finally like, an older gentleman. I'm not going to say old decrepit or old crippled because that's just mean. He's basically an older gentleman full of knowledge and full of wisdom at the end of the year, and he's passing on his responsibilities to the Baby New Year. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, this is kind of a cool progression here, where basically you're saying like, hey, the old year has to leave, the new year is coming in to take the place. I mean, it's a lot of responsibility for that to put on a new year, but it also is one of those things where it's like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Another really good movie. I will admit, it was one of those movies where I kind of watched it and I'm like, I thoroughly enjoyed that, surprisingly.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. Also because they do say it's supposed to be like a sequel to Rudolph, but like Rudolph looks way different and like is young again. like Rudolph wasn't
weird.
Young at the end of the Rudolph movie. He was a grown-ass reindeer pulling the sleigh.
You found the fountain of youth. He found the fountain of youth.
Right, which, hell, in this movie you would think, oh, where's the fountain of youth? They probably threw it in there somewhere. They threw in so many, like, different things. Like, it was very intriguing. Like, it was, like, a bunch of islands that held, like, fairy tale characters and, like, the medieval times and the three bears were there, like, what? And then, like, colonial America was like an island. It wasn't like it happened. It's like, no, it's just an island where it's always colonial America. It was very interesting, and I think it tried to throw a bunch of different
themes, yeah. I definitely can see that. It's just one of those things where
uh-oh. Am I back?
No, you're good now. We're good.
I don't know where it cut me off. All I heard was like a ding ding.
Well, but basically you were saying like, it has, different themes and different kinds of, deals that are going into this movie that they're kind of, I don't know if I would say jamming it in. It's just one of those things where it's just like they're giving different perspectives on.
Right. Well, I was saying they were teaching about these different things, like having dinosaurs and having cavemen and Benjamin Franklin and all these different things were very interesting, and like going throughout the ages and having Happy take off his hat and stuff and not being accepted by anyone, and he's so sad, little baby. Then having obviously an evil character trying to steal him away was interesting, but all in all, I enjoyed this movie. It was different, and it definitely was like a little less Christmassy than the others because of the fact that you're just like going around all these different things, but I definitely enjoyed it. It wasn't bad.
No, not at all. We go into the next movie, which is a movie that we both will admit that we've not gotten a chance to see, but we'll just talk very briefly about it. Next year, The Long-Eared Christmas Donkey. Kind of following the same formula as The Little Drummer Boy. It focuses on, this time around, it focuses on a donkey who is got these long ears. He's ridiculed for it. He's also embraced by his mother quite a bit. so much so that she basically sacrifices herself to save her child, and I think it was like a snowstorm or something like that. Yeah, try to figure that out. Snowstorm in Jerusalem. Jeez Louise. And then we get into the basic story of, Joseph and Mary finding a donkey, and then they're going to Bethlehem. Basically, the ears help, protect Mary during this sandstorm. Then they just kind of fast forward all the way till like the very end, and Nestor is kind of like a hero in a weird sense. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like it felt like they were trying to copy like Dumbo, Bambi, but also throw a little religion deal in there. I don't know. This is kind of one of those things where I look at the plot and I just think to myself, this just seems like a little bit of a crumpled up mess. I'm not gonna lie. It's not like I'm bashing it. It's just one of those things where it's like you've got a lot of themes going on here and too much exhibition that I think it's just gonna make everybody confused on what's going on with this movie.
Yeah, I would think that it was a very intriguing movie, but didn't hear much about it. Couldn't really find it anywhere. That's why we couldn't really watch it.
Right.
But no, I don't know. I don't know if I would have really enjoyed it, just because it does seem like a mosh posh of Dumbo and all these other movies. So it probably already had an underlying theme that these movies already had, but I do think this one would have been another more like Jesus-centric movie versus the like Santa Claus movies. So probably a necessary thing for people who do. I mean, Christmas is supposed to be a religious holiday, so I could see it being like, oh, maybe we should make another more Jesus-centric type of movie. So
yeah, at the very end of the movie, at least.
right. Like somehow, like go back, into the Middle East, which that's what they did with the drummer boy. So it doesn't feel like Christmas to some children because of like the sand and stuff. Like you're like, what the hell? Like this isn't Christmas. There's no sand in my Christmas. But in some of the, like obviously what's interesting about this studio in general is they do kind of take you to different areas of the world. Like I know Santa Claus is Coming to Town seems more like Russia area, like especially like by the Burgermeister. I don't know what a Meister. I don't know really off the top of my head that terminology and where it's from in the world, but I'm thinking Eastern European of some sort, and then we'll come to America with the colonial America stuff, and then we'll go. Oh, am I frozen in?
No, you're good.
Okay. Then we'll go, back to the Middle East where it all started. So it's very interesting that they try to, like, go across, many different cultures in this, which is interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, like we said, not much really that we can add on other than that. Then we move on to the next one, which was in 1979, which was Jack Frost. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I watched this movie, and I'm literally like, okay, I got this story. I got this all figured out. After the movie was over, I'm like, that was not at all what I was expecting at all. This is not something that makes me happy about the holidays. No. This is one of those movies where I watched it, and basically it tells a story about, Jack Frost, how he is kind of the one who brings the snow, who brings the cold weather, and him and I guess the groundhog kind of always have like this agreement, like every now and then they'll do the whole, shadow situation. They even show like a funny moment where he's basically using the groundhog shadow basically against him to encourage the fact that, hey, there's going to be like 6 more weeks of winter. There's no way this is happening. And it ties in with the story pretty interestingly enough. But basically the main story is Jack Frost thinks that, this woman likes him for him, when in reality it's just the girl likes the snow, to say the least. So he's thinking, I want to be human. I want to be an actual real person. I want to be a real man and blah, blah, blah. Stuff like that. And basically, I guess Father Snow, I think it was, or something like that. Father Blizzard. I don't even remember most of the characters' names. But basically he makes this deal. If you can find, a house, a wife, and gold, then you can stay a human, basically, is what he was saying. And it seemed like it was all basically planned out, but as soon as, he meets up with her, she doesn't really recognize him because Jack Frost is completely invisible to everybody else anyways. But during this movie, she definitely talks about, finding a golden knight, basically, is what she was saying. I thought that was just going to be like a metaphor. It's like, okay, so this is kind of going to be like how she and Jack end up together. She's going to see him as the golden knight, and he's going to, save the day or something like that. I could have been farther from that. Literally, there was just a guy in a knight costume, golden knight. He just comes in, and he's basically saying, like, oh, I just need my tailor trimmed, and blah, I need my cape done. And Jack is just covering himself as a tailor. And it's just one of those things where it gets really sad for me because I'm like, wow, this movie does not go in the direction that I thought it was going. I thought, Jack Frost, he's going to be able to, get gold, and he's going to get a house, and he's going to get, a wife and everything like that. And it just goes in a complete opposite direction where she doesn't even pay that much attention to him at all until, he saves her. But by that point, she already chooses the Golden Knights anyways at the end. And I'm just kind of like, oh, come on, that's sad. This is like real life Little Mermaid deal where except Jack Frost dying in the end, he just goes back kind of miserable. No, I wouldn't say he's miserable. It's just one of those things where he's just like, I'm accepting for what happened. I thought I knew what I wanted, but obviously that was not the case. And there's like this weird deal where, it's the wedding day for the knight and for her, and he does this deal where he like freezes the roses, and she takes it as like, oh, winter has kissed the bride. And I'm just like, what? It's one of those things where it's like, what? What are you talking about, lady? First of all, your metaphors do not work with my metaphors. And second of all, you have a very weird interpretation of everything. Just what is going on with this movie? There's some points, like I said, this movie confuses me, but it's also one of those things where it's like a heartbreaker because I'm thinking, oh, I got this on lock. I already know what this is. Then in the end, it's like, okay, this did not go as well as I thought it would. So...
yeah, it's a good movie though. I enjoyed it a lot. This is one that it's an interesting because you don't really, it's not really like super Christmas centric. Obviously, it's more like it's the claymation style with winter involved. And I don't know. I really like any movie with Jack Frost. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they try to do with Mr. Jack Frost, but they try to make him super like cutesy and tricky and fun, and he's a character that like people do enjoy and like. I keep freezing. I hate this. Jack Frost, stop freezing me. But yeah, I think it's a great tale of don't try to change yourself for someone else because it might go and bite you in the butt in the end. And that's kind of what happened to Jack Frost is he tried to change himself, be human for a woman that he thought cared about him, but she didn't even know him. Like, how would she know him? He's a spirit. Like, she just enjoyed winter in general, which, again, crazy lady. But no, and so he changes himself, ends up getting in a terrible situation where him and some of his friends are going to, like, die, probably. And so then he's like, okay, maybe I need to not be a human because I'm better at being a spirit. And he saves the day as him being him, and as much as he wants to go back and be like, hey, I did it, like, aren't you happy? Like, things happen the way they do, and people fall in love, and they don't fall in love with you. You don't always get the girl. You don't always win, but you do win in the fact that you saved the day, you did something right, and you were yourself and complete. And so it isn't the most happiest of stories, but it also is kind of a fun way to think of, like, Groundhog's Day and like why winter can come and why winter stays. And I mean, I think one of the best Jack Frost, like this was a great Jack Frost movie. Like this is like the intro to who, like, oh, what's Jack Frost? But Guardians is another really good one where he does the same thing. It explains like the story of Jack Frost, and they're always really good movies.
Well, I mean, other than probably, I think, Santa Claus 3, to be fair. Martin Short, I love you, but it's not one of those things where he, probably stands out. That's not one of his characters.
No, yeah.
Probably not one of those things he'll have at the top of his resume. But yeah, like you said, it's still one of those movies where, I didn't hate it. It was just one of those things where I was like, okay, this took me in a different direction than I thought it was. So
yeah,
I give him props for that.
Happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, again, I give him props for that.
All right, we only have 2 left. We gotta hurry, man.
Well,
there's a lot to talk about.
there really is. The next movie up here actually came out the same year as Jack Frost, and he does make a cameo in this movie, ironically enough. This was one of those movies that I mentioned to you that there was so many things where I thought, okay, this would be kind of interesting. But then I kind of watched it, I'm like, oh, wow, this is not one of my favorite movies. That really isn't. And that is Frosty and Rudolph's Christmas in July. Basically, what ends up happening is that there's all the story about basically what we thought was, just a natural thing with Rudolph. Nope, he's got the shiny red nose because he got this power from the Aurora Borealis. That's right. So that was a nice little tie-in, I will admit that. But basically, one of the situations where we get a little introduction and a little bit of an idea of, okay, this is where Rudolph gets his nose, but we also see what would happen if Rudolph were to lose his, his shine on his nose, like, forever. Then we incorporate, of course, Frosty the Snowman, who has, a wife, he's got kids. Oh, geez. I remember this. Frosty, Chili, Millie, and, oh, God, was it Willie? I'm trying to remember now. I think it was. I think it was. Yeah. Geez, how do you mess up those names?
I don't know.
But it's just one of those things where it looked like a fun movie to really kind of start. But I think my main issue with this was the fact that they had way too many songs. It was almost like every 5 minutes there was a song going off, and I remember even I think it was like halfway through the movie, I'm realizing that every 5 minutes there's going to be a song. I just literally went, stop with these songs already. I've heard enough of this.
Yeah, it was more kid centric, I think. They really tried to, the other movies you can watch as an adult and be, appreciative of them, but this one, and, it's hard to even explain because so much weird things were going on. Okay, I think you tried to get all of the Christmas fairy tale creatures all mashed into one movie, and it was just a lot. That's all I can say about this. This was just a lot. I didn't necessarily like it that much.
It was just basically a movie that was a lot to take in. I think that's basically how we can describe this. It was one of those movies where it was there was a lot going on, too much exhibition, too many characters, just little bit too much.
Yeah.
But,
so what about the Meister Brothers Christmas?
The Miser Brothers Christmas.
Miser Brothers.
So this basically is just a story about the Miser Brothers are helping Santa Claus, who is a bit injured during this time, and there's basically a lot of other characters that get involved because it's basically a situation where in the original The Year Without Santa Claus, we see that Heat Miser and Snow Miser are children of Mother Nature. So we get introduced back into Mother Nature, Heat Miser, Snow Miser, but also other characters in, I guess you could say, the weather world, you could say. And one of them wants to take basically Santa Claus's place. And that's kind of where the story winds up as, is where, it seems like, the Miser brothers are kind of at odds, they're kind of battling against each other, but also it's one of those things where they realize that they have to work together, and it's also one of those things where it's like, okay, they were on the naughty list for so many years, that's one of those reasons why they're thinking well, why don't we ever get gifts and stuff like that? It's like, well, that's because you guys are always on the naughty list. It's like, oh, so if we actually got along, then we would get more on the nice list. And it's kind of one of those stories where it's a building up of a relationship between two brothers. I mean, they're of course going to fight no matter what, but it's one of those things where they're trying to actually still build up their relationship better than before, and it tells a really good story, basically. So it's a pretty entertaining movie. This one is not produced by Rock and Bass. It actually was produced by Universal Studios.
Interesting. I didn't get to see this one, but I believe you, and I liked the Miser Brothers before, so I probably would have enjoyed this. But what's your number one out of all these movies?
Out of all these movies, I did tell you that there was like one movie in here that kind of gave me the warm, fuzzy feelings and just made me like so happy. I can't choose anything else other than Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I love the characters. I love the story.
That's my number one too. But I don't know. It's the first movie, and like that's how I got introduced to them, and that is my number one too.
It's just very well done. Very well done.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll kind of like briefly touch on these because we had actually two more movies that we wanted to discuss, and
you can talk about them. I'm okay, but it's been a while, so I was like, I don't know if the podcast can last this long.
It's fine. I'm literally at the point where it's like, you know what? We'll talk extra about these, so it's totally fine. So for those that are listening in this far, thank you for bearing with us and enjoy the rest of the show. So I did say, I think it was either last week or a couple weeks ago, that I would get the chance to see the movie Elf in its entirety. And I will tell you this, that there's a lot of people that I posted that on Facebook and I said like, oh, I'm going to watch Elf in its entirety. And one person said to me, you have never watched Elf? It's like, hand over your geek movie badge or something like that. And I just said like, hey, I said that I didn't watch it in its entirety. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but not the entire thing. So I'll be taking my badge back. And I still proudly have that badge. Anyway, so this was one of those movies that I did have hesitations about because it's a Will Ferrell movie. And in a way, it kind of is. But I will also give credit where credit is due. It is one of those movies that I think does embrace the Christmas spirit. It does embrace the holiday spirit. And it's one of those movies that I think Will Ferrell does kind of shine at this one. He's basically Buddy the elf who is trying to find his family, and he's always just happy about so many different things. And we're learning a lot about, Christmas spirit, and we're learning about the holidays. And it's just a very well told movie, and I can understand why people definitely love this movie. Heck, there were so many points where I was thinking to myself, you know what, there's going to be so many stupid comedy things in here, I'm probably not even going to care about them. But then there were just like a lot of these random moments, I'm just like, okay, that was actually funnier than I thought it was going to be. Why is this funnier than I thought it was going to be? And I think this is probably one of my more favorite roles that Will Ferrell has indeed play. And it features Zooey Deschanel. What more can I say other than that? And also, kids, what has this movie taught us? It's okay to, spy on a girl when she's taking a shower and singing in the shower, because then you two might end up as lovers. You never know. Okay, no, don't take that out of context, please. No. I was just kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. Respect ladies' privacy. Also, if you could sing along with them very well, that's awesome, but don't do it in the comfort of their shower. That's just weird. But it's just a really good. It's a really good movie. I admit, it's one of those movies where I thought, like, I'm going to hate this movie. But then after watching it, it's like, okay, I understand why it's a holiday classic. It's good. It's harmless. It's not one of those things where it's going to be stupid. It's a good movie. I admit to being wrong, which is not the first time I've probably done this on this podcast.
Yeah, no, Elf is amazing. It's definitely it turned into one of those classic movies. And they do have some of that stop motion that the studio that we've been talking about has, and that's kind of something that was great about this movie, is that they did the throwback of here's some polar bears and penguins and stuff, and him going across on the iceberg, which we've seen happen multiple times within these movies that we've been talking about. Base something, I forget.
Rock and Bass, yeah.
Yeah, Rock and Bass has done, and then they're like, bye, buddy, hope you find your dad. And everything, and it's just great, and so many classic jokes come from this, like the spaghetti and syrup, and all that, him eating the gum from under the stuff. You're just like, what is going on? And if you've been in a car and seeing people jump across on the like little like walking like
the sidewalk
like,
deal, yeah.
sidewalk that they do the walking marks, and having him like jump across them because those are the safety points. It's just so cute. And I don't know if you've ever done this, but I've definitely done the whole like try to go up the escalator with you put your foot all the way up and then like, oh, wait to see how far you can go, because that's what he did. He was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, it's great. And it just brings everybody together, and like the singing Christmas, like spreading Christmas cheer and stuff. Like Will Ferrell was the perfect guy for that, and Elf is definitely one of those classic movies that everybody watches around the holiday now.
Definitely, I definitely do agree with that. So definitely go check out Elf. You definitely got my stamp of approval. What also got my stamp of approval is the fact that we're going to be talking about this, The Grinch. We got 3 incarnations of this movie now. We have the original classic, which a lot of people will definitely say is like the best one. We had the Jim Carrey one in 2000, which a lot of people are still enjoying. And we also have the recent one, the Benedict Cumberbatch one, which is basically the animation deal. And also produced by Illumination. Yes, the ones that brought us the little pill minions. I hate everything. Anyway, so I did a review on all 3 of them, and basically I broke it down to which one had the best story, which one had the best supporting cast, which one had the best backgrounds, and which one was the better Grinch. Story, gave it to the original. Second one, the supporting cast, I had to give that to the Jim Carrey one. Third one was the background deal. I gave that to the Benedict Cumberbatch one. All in all, best Grinch should have came as no surprise. It was the Jim Carrey version. And you can definitely tell that was going to be the case, especially with the fact that I had his version of Your Mean One, Mr. Grinch, playing at the start of the show. It's just one of those movies that's very hard to overlook. Yes, it has its flaws. Yes, there are people that are saying, like, no, it's got those scarring, creepy Who's that just... They just look really weird. Some of them looked okay. And, of course, Cindy Lou was, of course, the adorable one, but that was also because most of the people that were there, how did somebody put it? Almost looked like their lips were trying to just attack their nose or something like that. It was, it's just one of those things where I see where some of the complaints can come from. But, like I said, it's just a very well told story. It talks about the Grinch. It gives him a bit of a backstory. It gives him, reasons to hate the Who's. I think Jim Carrey does a fantastic job for all the hours of makeup that he had to go through and all the training that he got from, the CSI and from the FBI. All the training that he got for enduring this torturous, deal and wearing this costume. It's just one of those things where it's like, it shows how much we appreciate him more as an actor and the dedication he has to film. But yeah, it's just one of those movies where it came as no surprise that the Jim Carrey version was going to be the best out of all of them. There's other people that will say that the original was the best, and there's probably others that will say, like, no, we like the Benedict Cumberbatch version. You have a right to your opinion. I am sticking with the Jim Carrey version. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of good stuff in there that can overpass the bad. And even watching it again, like about a week ago, I was like, yeah, it's still a good movie. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I loved the Jim Carrey version. I watch it every year, and I watched it this year. I already watched it. I do think he did a fantastic job of really bringing the Grinch to life, and I mean, he's just one of those comedians that really jump into a role and give it his all, and that does suck. He had to go through that much makeup all the time, but to me, it was one of the best tellings of the Grinch because it also showed like him as a young kid and how it does the whole like, hey, he struggled with stuff and that's why he is the way he is. Whenever you explain like backstory more of characters and give them the humanizing traits that I know and love, I'm going to like the story better. I enjoy hearing that the Grinch just happens to be super different than all the other Who's, and they don't like that, and he can't be accepted, so instead of trying to be accepted, he tries to be as different as possible and destroy all their loves and dreams because he's the villain because he's different. He's like, okay, you want a villain? I'll give you a villain. And, like, that's why that story was so good. I haven't seen the Illumination version of The Grinch. It looked pretty dumb to me, but also it's meant for kids. I get that. But I enjoy movies that can be for kids, but also appreciated by adults. That's what Disney does amazingly. That's what they did with this Grinch with Jim Carrey, is they made it kid-friendly, but dang, could you connect with it if you were an adult, too. And seeing the bullying aspect and what it did to him, and how the Cindy Lou Who, like, Where Are You Christmas song just all of a sudden got super popular again. Like, it was awesome. I love it. One of my favorite Christmas movies of all time.
Definitely do agree with that. And there, like I said, we could talk like hours upon hours of this movie and how great it is, but maybe we'll save that for the next holiday season, you guys, because I think that definitely deserves a podcast in and of its own. And we could definitely talk about the positives, the negatives, and stuff like that. But we have definitely gone a lot longer than we expected to, but you know something? I like this. It was almost like one of those situations where it's like, you know, we're talking about a lot of the great things that happened and one of the great memories that happened with childhood. So for those of you that definitely do want to get a chance, go check out a lot of these great classics. You definitely will appreciate them more after even like an absence of maybe missing a year worth. You'll watch them again, you'll be like, wow, this is what I was missing out on. This is just fantastic movies. So also would like to know, what is probably your favorite, you know, holiday/Christmas movie to watch? Whether it is Die Hard, whether it is, you know, Krampus, whatever it is, we'd love to know, you know, what movies that you guys really seem to enjoy, because it's a holiday season and we would love to, you know, for us to be given the gift of what you love to watch during this holiday season. So with that being said, we can wrap up this edition of The Game Changer. VicTori Belle, thank you so much for just a fantastic show. It's been a lot of fun doing this. I always love doing, especially these holiday-themed episodes, because they are just that much more fun. They really are. And especially when we talk back about a lot of these Christmas specials, it's amazing.
Oh, it is so much fun, and it just gets you in the holiday spirit. So I definitely enjoyed being a part of this one.
So for everybody here at The Game Changer, ladies and gentlemen, you have yourself a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and by all means, just remember that it's a season of giving, and also be sure to appreciate your family, because it is, again, another reminder that we wouldn't be having gifts and we wouldn't be having that gift of giving to others if it wasn't for family. So, for VicTori Belle, I've been Nate the Effing Great. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you guys, and we will talk to you next week as we go into talking about some of the things that you can expect for 2019, including a bit of an announcement that you guys will definitely really want to listen into. I'm going to say this right now. Next week's Game Changer podcasts are going to be can't miss, because there's going to be just one shot after another, after another, after another that you definitely do not, and I repeat that, don't want to miss. I don't know if I've said like don't so many times that it basically cancels each other out, but whatever. It's our show, whatever. So, all right. Thank you guys so much, and we will talk to you guys next week for another exciting edition of The Game Changer. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come